taking a quick read. I don't think this is even close to done, but just want to make sure we don't overcook. And nope, it's about room temperature, so it's got a long time. Still has a ways to go. And the pork is coming along.
Usually try to sear it a little bit.
Yeah, usually would have gone crazy. That's kind of weird. Okay, well, while that stuff's going, let's start on the veggies. One thing I like to do is have a whole bunch of cooked veggies on hand. So if I'm making a quick recipe, I have diced onions, maybe I've got some onions here we're going to dice up, some zucchini, a little squash, some peppers, some mushrooms, and some celery. And I also really like to buy pre-cut carrots. They're already julienned, and they're really handy to have around to put in stir fries or soups or whatever you're making. So I like to have a bunch of ready-made ingredients like that so that I can just whip up something in a minute, because I'll have, after this hour, we're going to have all these different proteins. We're going to have rice, potatoes, and a whole bunch of veggies. There's a million things we can make with this, plus a few other ingredients. And you'll see on the website we're going to have a whole bunch of 10-minute recipes that I'm calling ready recipes. So if you've done your prep work, you'll be able to make them really quickly, and they're all going to be around 400 calories or less. Okay, well, let's start chopping. So we'll start with mushrooms. I already rinsed these off, and I'm just going to give them kind of a rough cut. And I'll use these I'll put these in all kinds of things later on, but it's just nice to have cut ones. You can always buy pre-cut mushrooms, that's fine, or pre-cut any of this stuff. I mean, unless you really love to cook and chop and dice, I'd say go ahead and, if they sell it already made, buy it. In fact, if you don't want to go through all this hassle, there's a lot of places that sell these kinds of proteins already made and are already cooked, and you can buy them that way and save yourself a lot of this time. It's a little more expensive per pound, but it just depends on what your time is worth. For example, I buy sometimes Costco sells chicken, their rotisserie chicken, already pulled off the bone, and they'll send a package. It's really quite good, and it's about $10 for a big, probably 2 or 3 pounds. You can also buy those already cooked chicken strips in the deli section, usually around their lunch meat section in most grocery stores, and those come in handy if you want to make something. I don't think they taste quite as good as homemade, but if you're in a hurry, it's better than eating junk food or fast food. So in my opinion, the key to eating good and being able to lose weight is filling up your belly with foods that aren't too bad for you but are very filling. For example, that's why I try to eat so much chicken and pork and beef and things that are lean, and a lot of veggies, because they fill me up, but they're not too high in calories or fat. So that's really the key for me, is to never go hungry. As soon as I go hungry, then I start craving the candy and the sweets and the pizza and all that stuff. But if I can just keep my belly full of things that are good for me, then it's actually not that hard to diet. And I can eat on 2,000 calories a day easily, as long as I'm staying full. All right, so I think this pork's about ready to go in the oven. Let me just spray down this pan real quick, and we'll throw it in.
And why do you cook it here first?
And we want to get a good sear, but sometimes it'll dry out. Or look at that pan; the pan's getting really burnt because I didn't put a lot of oil in there. If you would put a ton of oil, it'd be great, but I don't want to fry it. I just want to cook it. So we're gonna just turn that one off and leave it there. Chicken's coming along. I got it back up to a little bit of a boil. Later. Let's just check the chicken real quick, because these tenders are small. They're going to cook fast. Oops, we don't need Celsius. Yeah, these are done. So we're going to turn that off completely. And in fact, I'm going to just throw it on the other burner so it stops cooking quicker. We're just going to kind of let them sit in that broth. So we'll throw this onto the middle here. Potatoes haven't even started boiling. That's why we got those started so early, because they take forever. And pork's going. Pork will probably take 10 or so minutes. Okay, right now we've got a bunch of mushrooms. Let me grab a baggie. So I just keep these in the fridge. And every time I go to make something, if I'm making tacos or whatever you want, or Italian food or whatever. You just grab some of these mushrooms, they're really handy. Or you can dice them up more if you need to hide them from the kids. If you have kids who don't like them. I'll make shepherd's pie and I'll fill it full of veggies, and the kids don't usually notice too much, so that's nice. So then I'll just toss this in the fridge and draw from this little supply all week. Okay, so onions. A lot of people really don't like to cook onions because they're kind of hard if you don't really know what you're doing, and they make you cry. So you want to cook them quick, or you want to cut them quick. So the best way I found to cut an onion is cut off both ends like this. Watch your fingers. And then cut it right down the middle. And then I grab a layer or two and just peel it off. Let's grab all this garbage. And then from there, if you just set down the board and look for that solid end where it all comes together. Well, maybe it's the top, I don't know. But whatever the end is, where it all kind of is combined and it's kind of one piece, put that away from you. And what you want to do is do several cuts kind of lengthwise, but don't quite cut through that solid part, because that'll keep this all one piece. So do a whole bunch of cuts.
So you're making like a bloomin' onion.
Kind of like a bloomin' onion. So I've cut a whole bunch of times this way, all trying to go to the center, kind of diagonals. And now I'm going to carefully do cuts all the way from the front to the back, but not quite cutting through. So do 2 or 3 of those, depending on how thick your onion is, and be really careful you don't chop your fingers. And now, when you go and just do a regular dice, you've totally separated it, and you've got a perfect dice every time. So now those are perfect. In the end, either you can, if you really want to, you can finish chopping that end or just toss it or whatever. So that's the easiest way I know of chopping onions. Or you can buy one of these kind of things, and they're even easier. If you're really lazy, or if you're going to do a ton of potatoes or a ton of onions, all you got to do is chop these in little pieces, put them on there, slam it down. That's the quickest way I know of dicing onions. So let's look at this flank steak. I'll bet it's about done. Let's check on it. Yep. Okay, so I got a new pair of tongs because we don't want to cross-contaminate with the tongs I was using earlier on the raw meat. So we're going to pull it off and we're going to let it rest. Always let your meat rest. And I've sanitized this area as well. So always let your meat rest, or it will it loses all the juices. If you cut into it right away, the juices all spill out, and it's tough. It's not as good meat. But if you let it rest for 5 or 10 minutes, the juices all get reabsorbed into the meat, and that's what gives you a tender, juicy piece of steak. So we're going to let it sit there for 10 minutes or so. I'm going to just cover it with some foil. So just let that sit there and rest. Chicken's resting, pork's cooking. Okay, let's finish our onions real quick. We're going to dice up some more onions. These are so handy to have. When you just have all these ingredients available, it's so much easier to cook. And it only takes about an hour a week to get all this stuff ready. Or if you're really lazy, like I said, like I am sometimes, just go buy this stuff. It's really not that hard to find. A lot of these things are already diced for you. Some grocery stores will do it. If not, it's not that hard to chop an onion or two. So if I'm cooking an omelet, if I'm cooking up some tacos, if I'm cooking up marinara sauce, these will come in extremely handy. I just grab a handful, throw them in, and they add a lot of flavor, and they're already done for me, so it's almost no work to cook fresh food when you've got the ingredients already. Easy.